Namo Phat, good morning. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news I do not know to be certain. I will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or the community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. For our Dharma lesson today, we're finishing a section on the awakening factor of rapture from Ajahn Thiradhammo's book, Working with the Five Hindrances. The energy of inspiration can sometimes be unstable or temperamental. Without a firm foundation, can easily change. I've seen people come to the monastery very inspired to be monks, happily ever after. That kind of inspiration does lift people up. Their eyes are wide open and they become very energized. But it's often only one part of themselves which is inspired. When things get difficult, the shallow inspiration fails. They can't keep it up. They can't keep inspiration charged when they are no longer impressed with the life, or they are not succeeding, or not the center of attention, or always being encouraged. Or their inspiration is based on superficial curiosity. And once they get into the daily grind, it starts to fade away. As one monk said, the real source of success in the spiritual life is not inspiration, but desperation. Not quite so inspiring, is it? It all depends upon how grounded in reality one's inspiration is. After 3 years as a monk, I lost my inspiration. My practice had plateaued and no new insights were forthcoming. However, I was quite fortunate to then meet Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho, whom I saw as living examples of the fruit of practice. My inspiration for the monastic life was reignited, but after 9 years, it again faded away. But then I moved to live in the monasteries in England and had a different set of challenges to keep me going. However, after around 15 years, inspiration again waned. But I was quite canny and had anticipated such a time. I had read the main Buddhist scriptures a couple of times, and that was inspirational. And there was one of the scriptures I didn't read. I put it aside for special emergencies. That was a good thing. The book I kept aside for my monastic emergency was the poems of the enlightened monks and nuns, the Therigatha and the Therigatha. These are all the success stories of the monks and nuns in the Buddhist time who realized full awakening. So when I lost my own inspiration, I opened these texts and read these profound stories of different people and the dedicated ways in which they practiced. And they all succeeded. They all realized enlightenment. One of the valuable lessons from this collection of spiritual poetry was the fact that insight into Dhamma can happen at any time. One nun, for example, was diligent but couldn't realize awakening. Then one night she entered her hut to rest, and as she extinguished her lamp, her mind was liberated. Nibbana means to extinguish, to go out. As the lamp was extinguished, so her grasping of ego was extinguished. She uttered this poem of her awakening experience. and it was recorded in the scriptures. Tending field with plow and whip, sowing seeds in the earth, nourishing wife and children, the young man enjoys wealth. Why do I, complete in moral conduct, following the teacher's doctrine, not acquire nibbana? I am not indolent or proud. I wash my feet and watch the water. I see the wash water flow down the slope. Thereupon my mind concentrates, as training a noble horse. Taking a lamp, I entered my dwelling. I considered the couch, then sat on the bed. Taking the pen, I drew down the wick. The extinguishing of the lamp, the liberation of the mind. Another valuable lesson from reading these accounts was learning the diverse ways in which people practiced. Some of them were already at a very advanced level of spiritual maturity and only needed a short teaching from the Buddha or some initial instructions from a disciple to realize the truth. Others had experienced severe emotional trauma and sought refuge in the teachings and were thus very motivated by their suffering. Yet others struggled for many years before they had a breakthrough. Some of these stories may prefigure our own path of practice or inspire us to continue because our own problems seem paltry in comparison. Another means of arousing rapture is to consciously cultivate it. One of the exercises in the discourse on mindfulness of breathing is to breathe in, experiencing rapture. Rather than wait for it to arise, we can make an effort to generate it ourselves. A more simple method is to cultivate a joyful attitude to meditation. Find ways to make it into an enjoyable experience. One suggestion I give to people who are practicing on their own is to meditate only as long as it is enjoyable. Some people prefer to sit by the clock and perhaps spend the last 10 to 15 minutes enduring pain or discomfort. If we continue in this way, the discomfort will create resistance, tension, and displeasure, and maybe the only way out is to fall asleep. If you enjoy meditating, it will create enjoyment. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me today.